The stars looked different this far out. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching the view screen display thousands of points of light he had never seen before. They were 3 months into their exploration mission, farther from Earth than any human had traveled before. The ship hummed quietly around him, a sound that had become as familiar as his own heartbeat. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," Lisa Grant said from the pilot's station. Her fingers moved quickly across her controls, her face lit by the blue glow of her screens. "There's a massive energy signature about 2 million kilometers ahead." Jake moved closer to look at her display. He had been a captain for 5 years, and Lisa had been with him for 3 of those years. She was the best pilot he had ever worked with, and when she said something was strange, he paid attention. "What kind of energy signature?" Jake asked. "I've never seen anything like it," Lisa said. "It's huge. Maybe 100 ships, maybe more. They're just sitting there in formation." Jake felt his heart beat faster. 100 ships meant a civilization with serious technology. It meant they were not alone out here, which was exactly what they had hoped to find, but it also meant danger. "Danny, get down to engineering and make sure everything is running perfectly," Jake said into his communication device. "Amy, come up to the bridge. We might need your expertise." Danny Cole's voice came back through the speaker. "Already on it, Captain. All systems are green." Dr. Amy Wells arrived on the bridge 2 minutes later. She was their xenobiologist, the person who studied alien life. She had spent her whole career hoping for this moment, and now her eyes were wide with excitement and fear. "Are we really looking at alien ships?" Amy asked. "Looks like it," Jake said. "Lisa, take us in slowly. Keep our weapons powered down. I want them to know we're not looking for a fight." The horizon moved forward through space. As they got closer, the view screen began to show details. The alien ships were unlike anything humans had ever built. They were smooth and curved, made of something that looked like crystal or glass. They reflected the light from nearby stars, creating colors that shifted and changed. In the center of the formation was one ship much larger than all the others. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "They've noticed us," Lisa said. "I'm reading active scans. They're looking us over pretty thoroughly." Jake straightened his uniform. "Open a communication channel. All frequencies." Lisa nodded and pressed several buttons. A tone sounded, indicating the channel was open. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earthship Horizon," Jake said clearly. "We come in peace. We're explorers from the planet Earth, and we mean you no harm. We're hoping we can talk." For a long moment, there was only silence. Then the communication system crackled to life. The voice that came through was deep and had a strange quality to it, like multiple voices speaking at once. "Human vessel, you have entered sacred space. This territory belongs to the Kalthari Empire. Your presence here is a violation. You will surrender your ship immediately." Amy grabbed Jake's arm. "Sacred space? We need to apologize, explain that we didn't know." Jake nodded and spoke again. "We had no knowledge that this space was claimed. We apologize for any disrespect. We're willing to leave peacefully if that's what you want." "It is too late for apologies," the voice said. "You have seen our fleet. You have seen our location. You cannot be allowed to leave." The alien ships began to move. They formed a sphere around the horizon, boxing them in completely. Jake could see weapons ports opening on the nearest vessels. His mind raced through options, but none of them were good. The Horizon was a science ship, not a warship. They had basic shields and a few defensive weapons, but nothing that could fight off 100 enemy ships. "Captain, they're powering up weapons," Lisa said. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the fear underneath. "What do we do?" "Keep our weapons down," Jake said. "Danny, divert all power to shields." "Amy, is there anything in your database about these Kalthari?" "Nothing," Amy said, her fingers flying over her console. "They're completely unknown. Not even a legend or a rumor." Jake made a decision. If they were going to die out here, he wanted to at least try everything. "Kalthari fleet, I request to speak with your leader. I'm the captain of this ship, and I take full responsibility for our presence here. If someone must be punished, it should be me, not my crew." Another long silence followed. Jake could hear his own breathing and the quiet sounds of the bridge. Lisa's hands hovered over her controls, ready to try to run if needed. Danny's voice came through the speaker, reporting that shields were at maximum. Then something changed on the view screen. The massive central ship began to glow brighter. A new voice came through the communication system. This one was different from the first. It was still strange and alien, but it was also clearly female, and it carried absolute authority. Human captain, I am Queen Velshara of the Kael'thari. Your words show bravery or foolishness. Perhaps both. I will see you with my own eyes before I decide your fate. Your Majesty, I'm honored, Jake said. I'll be happy to meet with you. Should I take a shuttle to your ship? You will come alone, the Queen said. If you bring weapons or attempt deception, your ship and crew will be destroyed instantly. Do you accept these terms? Jake looked at his crew. Lisa was shaking her head, silently pleading with him not to go. Amy looked terrified. But what choice did they have? I accept, Jake said. No way, Lisa said, turning in her chair to face him. Captain, this is crazy. We don't know anything about these aliens. They could kill you the second you step aboard their ship. They could kill all of us right now if they wanted to, Jake said quietly. This might be our only chance. If I don't come back, Lisa, you're in command. Get the crew home if you can. Jake, Lisa started, using his first name for the first time in months. That's an order, Jake said gently. A bright light suddenly surrounded Jake. He felt a strange pulling sensation, and the bridge of the horizon disappeared. The light was so bright he had to close his eyes. He felt like he was moving very fast, but there was no wind, no sound. Then just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. Jake opened his eyes and found himself standing in a massive room. The walls, floor, and ceiling were all made of the same crystal-like material as the ship's. Light seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The room was easily 100 meters across, with a high ceiling that made him feel very small. At the far end of the room, sitting on a throne that grew up out of the floor like a frozen waterfall, was the Queen. Queen Velshara was huge. She had to be at least 8 feet tall, maybe more. Her skin was a pale blue color that seemed to glow slightly from within. She wore armor that looked like it was made of the same crystal as everything else, but it moved with her body like cloth. Her face was roughly human in shape, but more angular, more perfect. Her eyes were the most striking thing about her. They were a deep violet color and seemed to see right through him. Around the room stood at least 20 guards. They were all tall like the Queen, all armed with weapons that hummed with power. Jake could feel dozens of eyes on him, judging him, measuring him. So this is a human, the Queen said. Her mouth moved. But Jake realized the words he heard were not matching her lips. Something was translating for him. Either technology or something else. Smaller than I expected. Weaker looking. Is your entire species so fragile? Jake stood up straighter. We might not be as strong as your people, Your Majesty, but humans have survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. We've spread across our solar system, and now we're reaching for the stars. We're tougher than we look. Several of the guards made a hissing sound. Jake realized they were laughing. But the Queen held up one hand and they fell silent immediately. You have courage to speak to me this way, Velshara said. She rose from her throne and began to walk down toward him. Each step she took echoed through the massive room. But courage alone will not save you or your people. You have trespassed in sacred territory. The punishment for this is death. Jake's mouth went dry, but he forced himself to speak. Then I accept that punishment for myself. But please let my crew go. They were just following my orders. They don't deserve to die for my mistake. The Queen stopped about 10 feet away from him. This close, Jake could see that her skin had patterns on it like tattoos or scars. But they moved slowly, like clouds. She studied him with those violet eyes, and Jake felt like she was reading his mind, seeing everything he had ever done or thought. Remove your jacket, the Queen said suddenly. What? Jake asked, confused. Your jacket. Remove it. Now. Jake hesitated, then slowly took off his uniform jacket. He stood there in his white undershirt, feeling exposed and vulnerable. Your shirt as well, the Queen commanded. Your Majesty, I don't understand. Do it. The guards all raised their weapons. Jake could see energy building in the barrels, ready to fire. He grabbed the bottom of his shirt and pulled it over his head. The throne room went completely silent. Jake stood there, bare-chested, as the Queen stared at him. Her eyes were fixed on his chest, on the long, jagged scar that ran from his left shoulder down to his right ribs. It was an old scar, something from when he was 12 years old, an accident in the mines on Mars Colony. He had almost died that day. The throne room exploded into chaos. Every guard in the room started talking at once in their own language, a sound like wind chimes mixed with thunder. Some of them stepped forward, their weapons still raised. Others fell to their knees. Jake stood frozen, his shirt still in his hand, having no idea what was happening. Queen Velshara raised both hands and the room fell silent again. She was still staring at Jake's scar, her violet eyes wide. Then she did something that shocked everyone in the room, including Jake. She knelt down on one knee in front of him. "Your Majesty, what are you doing?" one of the guards shouted. He was bigger than the others, with more decorations on his armor. "You cannot kneel before this human." "Silence, General Tharok," the queen said, but her voice was distant, like she was speaking from far away. She looked up at Jake's face. "Do you know what this mark means? Do you have any idea what you carry on your skin?" "It's just a scar," Jake said. His voice came out rough and uncertain. "I got it when I was a kid. There was an accident in the mines on Mars. I almost died." "What mines?" the queen asked. "Tell me everything. Every detail matters." Jake's mind went back to when he was 12 years old. He had not thought about that day in years. "I grew up on Mars Colony 7. My parents worked in the terraforming project. I used to explore the old mining tunnels when I was supposed to be in school. One day I went deeper than I ever had before. I found something, someone." The queen stood up quickly. "Go on." "There was a creature," Jake said. "I didn't know what it was. Nothing like anything I'd seen before. It was hurt badly, dying. There was purple blood everywhere. It was trying to speak, but I couldn't understand the words. I wanted to help, so I got closer. That's when the tunnel started to collapse." Jake touched his scar without thinking about it. "A metal beam fell and hit me. It tore across my chest. I remember pain, so much pain. Then I remember the creature touching me. Its hand was on my chest, right over the wound. There was light, bright blue light, and heat. Then I passed out. When I woke up, I was in the colony hospital. They said miners found me in the tunnel. There was no creature, no purple blood, nothing. They thought I was hallucinating from blood loss. The doctor said it was a miracle I survived. The wound should have killed me, but somehow it had already started to heal. They stitched me up and I got this scar." The queen's hand went to her own chest, over her heart. "The creature you found was named Kelvan. He was my father." The throne room went completely silent again. Jake felt like all the air had been sucked out of his lungs. "Your father?" 50 years ago, my father led a scouting mission into unknown space," the queen said. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear emotion underneath. "His ship was damaged in an asteroid field and crashed on a red planet. We searched for him for years but found nothing. We thought he was dead. We held funeral rites. I became queen because he was gone." She walked away from Jake and toward her throne, her steps slow and heavy. 3 years after he disappeared, we received a single transmission. It was weak, almost impossible to hear, but it was his voice. He said he had found something important on the red planet. He said he had found the bridge between our people and another species. He said he had marked a child, a human child, and that one day this child would bring our peoples together when we needed it most. The transmission ended there," the queen continued. "We searched that entire sector of space again but found nothing. Some of my people said the transmission was fake. Others said my father had gone mad before he died. But I believed him. I always believed him, and I have been searching for the marked human ever since." Jake put his shirt back on with shaking hands. This was impossible. This was insane. But he could not deny the way the queen was looking at him, or the way her voice sounded when she talked about her father. "What did your father do to me?" Jake asked. "He performed the Tal Shara," the queen said. "It is an ancient ritual, one of the most sacred in our culture. It creates a bond between two souls. The energy signature stays with both people forever. For you it manifested as that scar. The pattern is unique. I have been looking at pictures of it my entire life, drawn from my father's description in that final message." She moved closer to Jake again. "May I?" she asked, gesturing toward his chest. Jake nodded. He felt like he was in a dream. The queen placed her hand over his chest, over the scar, but on top of his shirt. Her hand glowed with a soft blue light. Jake felt warmth spreading through his chest, not painful but strange, like something was waking up inside him that had been asleep for years. "Yes," the queen whispered. "The signature is still there. My father's energy, mixed with yours. This is real. You are real." She stepped back and turned to face her guards and advisors. "This human is under my personal protection. Anyone who harms him will answer to me directly. He will be treated as an honored guest of the Empire. Is this understood?" Most of the guards bowed and placed their fists over their hearts. But General Tharok did not move. Your Majesty, with respect, this changes nothing.
He is still human.
His people are still a potential threat. The prophecy could be false. The prophecy is real because I say it is real, the Queen said, and her voice had turned cold and dangerous. Question me again, General, and you will find yourself without your command. General Tharok's jaw tightened, but he bowed. Jake could see the anger in his eyes, though. The Queen turned back to Jake. You must have questions. About 1,000,000, Jake said. But the first one is, what happens now? My crew is still out there on my ship. They're probably terrified. Can I at least contact them and let them know I'm okay? Your crew will be allowed to leave unharmed, the Queen said. They will return to Earth and tell your leaders what has happened. But you cannot go with them. What? Why not? Because you are part of the prophecy, the Queen said. My father saw something in you even as a child. He believed you were meant to help our people. I do not yet understand how or why, but I must find out. You will stay here as my guest until we understand what role you must play. Jake felt panic rising in his chest. I can't just stay here. I have responsibilities. My crew needs me. Earth needs to know what's out here. Your crew will deliver that message, the Queen said. And you are more important to my people than you realize. I am not making a request, Captain Morrison. I am telling you what will happen. Before Jake could argue, the Queen spoke to one of her guards in her own language. The guard bowed and left quickly. You will be given quarters appropriate to your status, the Queen said. You will not be harmed or imprisoned. You may move freely throughout most of the ship, but you will not leave. In time, I hope you will understand why this is necessary. And if I refuse, Jake asked, knowing it was pointless but needing to say it anyway. Then I will be disappointed, the Queen said simply. But the outcome will remain the same. You are too important to lose. Another guard approached and spoke quietly to the Queen. She nodded. Your crew is being contacted now, she told Jake. They will be told that you are safe and that they are free to go. What message do you want me to send them? Jake thought fast. He wanted to tell Lisa to refuse to leave without him, to demand his return, but he knew that would just get them all killed. The Queen was being generous by letting them go at all. Tell them to return to Earth immediately, Jake said. Tell them to report everything they've seen. And tell them that I'm okay. Tell Lisa that she's in command now and I trust her completely. The Queen spoke in her language to the guard, who bowed and left. Then she looked at Jake with those piercing violet eyes. I know you are angry, she said. I know you feel trapped. But I need you to understand something. My father did not do what he did without reason. The Talshara is not performed lightly. It requires the willing sacrifice of the giver's life force. My father used the last of his strength to mark you, to save you, and to bind your fate to ours. He saw something in you that day, something important. I intend to find out what. What if there's nothing to find? Jake asked. What if your father was just delirious from his injuries? What if this is all a mistake? Then I will apologize and send you home with honor, the Queen said. But I do not believe it was a mistake, and deep down neither do you. Jake wanted to argue, but he could not, because she was right. Something had happened in that tunnel all those years ago. He had felt it then, even as a scared 12-year-old kid. He had felt something change inside him when that creature, when Kelvon, when the Queen's father had touched him. He had just spent 20 years telling himself it was nothing. How long do I have to stay? Jake asked quietly. Until we find the answers we both need, the Queen said. I know it is not the answer you want, but it is the only one I have. A different guard approached, a female who moved with grace despite her armor. Your Majesty, the humans' quarters are ready. Thank you, Kira, the Queen said. Then to Jake, this is Lieutenant Kira Shen. She will be your guide and guard. If you need anything, ask her. She speaks your language well. Kira bowed to Jake. Her violet eyes were curious but not hostile. Please follow me, Captain Morrison. Jake looked back at the Queen. Will I see you again? Tomorrow, the Queen said. We have much to discuss. For now, rest. I know this has been overwhelming. Jake woke up to light streaming through walls that had somehow become transparent during the night. Outside, he could see stars and the distant shapes of other Kalthari ships. For a moment, he forgot where he was. Then reality crashed back and he sat up quickly, his heart pounding. He had dreamed about the mines again, about finding Kelvin bleeding and dying in the darkness. But this time, in the dream, he could understand what the alien was saying. The words echoed in his head even now, though he could not quite remember them. A soft chime sounded through the room. Then Kira's voice came from everywhere at once. "Captain Morrison, the Queen requests your presence. I will wait outside when you are ready." Jake showered in a bathroom that somehow knew exactly what temperature he wanted the water to be. His uniform had been cleaned overnight and was waiting for him, folded perfectly. He got dressed and tried to prepare himself mentally for whatever was coming next. Kira was waiting in the hallway outside. Today she was not wearing her full armor, just a simpler uniform that still looked like it was made of crystal. She nodded to him. "Did you sleep well?" "Not really," Jake admitted. "I kept dreaming about the day I met your queen's father." Kira's expression changed slightly. "The Tal Shara bond sometimes causes dreams. The energy signature connects you to our people in ways we do not fully understand. Come, the queen is waiting in the learning chamber." They walked through the ship's corridors. Jake saw more Kael'thari now in the daylight that streamed through sections of transparent walls. There were workers moving equipment, warriors training in open spaces, and even what looked like families with children. The children stopped to stare at him with wide violet eyes. One little girl waved, and Jake waved back, which made her giggle and hide behind her mother. The learning chamber turned out to be a massive library. Shelves stretched up 3 stories high, filled with objects that looked like glowing crystals. Screens floated in the air showing text and images in the Kael'thari language. In the center of the room stood Queen Velshara, looking at one of the floating displays. She turned when Jake entered. Today she wore simpler clothes too, more like robes than armor. She looked less like a warrior queen and more like a scholar. "Captain Morrison," she said, "thank you for coming. Did Kira take good care of you?" "She did," Jake said. "Your hospitality has been better than I expected considering I'm a prisoner." "You are not a prisoner," the queen said, though they both knew that was not quite true. "You are a guest who cannot leave. There is a difference. Come sit with me. We have much to discuss." They sat at a table that grew up out of the floor. Kira stood nearby, but far enough away to give them some privacy. "I spent all night reviewing my father's journals," the queen said. "He kept detailed records of everything. His thoughts, his discoveries, his fears. After his ship crashed on your Mars, he managed to survive for weeks in those tunnels. He was trying to repair his emergency beacon to call for help." She waved her hand, and a floating display appeared above the table. It showed text in Kael'thari, but as Jake watched, it began to translate itself into English. "This is from his final entries," the queen said. "Read it." Jake read the glowing text floating in front of him. The translation was not perfect, but he could understand it. "I am dying. The injuries from the crash have finally become too much. I have perhaps days left, maybe only hours. I have failed my people. I will never see my daughter again. I will never hold my wife. This red planet will be my grave, and no one will ever know what happened to me. But today something happened that has changed everything. I found hope in the darkness. A young human child stumbled into my hiding place. He was small, probably no more than 12 of their years. He should have run from me in fear. Instead, he tried to help me. The child brought me water and food. He spoke to me even though I could not answer. He sat with me so I would not die alone. And then, when the tunnel began to collapse, he tried to save me instead of saving himself. I used the last of my strength to perform the Tal Shara. I marked him with my life energy. I saved his life, but I did more than that. I looked into his spirit while our energies were joined, and I saw something that gave me hope. I saw courage that will one day move mountains. I saw compassion that will bridge the space between stars. I saw a spirit that will unite peoples who should be enemies. This child, this human, carries within him the potential to be the bridge my people will desperately need. I do not know when, I do not know how, but I know that one day the Kael'thari will face a threat we cannot defeat alone. And when that day comes, this marked human will be there. He will bring together those who stand apart. He will be the key to our survival. To my daughter Velshara, if you ever receive this message, know that I died with hope in my heart. Find the marked one. The scar I have given him is unique. It will grow with him, becoming more defined as he ages. By the time you find him, he will be a man, but the mark will remain. Trust him. Protect him. He is our future. Jake finished reading and sat back. His hands were shaking slightly. He saw all that? Just from touching me? The Tal Shara allows a deep connection, the queen said. In that moment when your energies joined, my father could sense your potential. Not who you were as a child, but who you could become as a man. But I'm nobody special, Jake said. I'm just a ship captain. I explore planets and file reports. I'm not some great hero who's going to save civilizations. You do not believe that, the Queen said gently. If you did, you would not have offered your life for your crew yesterday. You would not have walked into my throne room alone, knowing you might die. Jake did not have an answer for that. The Queen waved her hand again and the text disappeared. Another image took its place. This one showed a massive structure made of darkness. It was hard to look at directly. It seemed to bend light around itself. This is why my father's message was so important, the Queen said. This is the Void Collective. It is the threat he saw coming. What is it? Jake asked, staring at the disturbing image. We do not fully know, the Queen admitted. It appeared in our home galaxy over 300 years ago. At first it was just a small anomaly. Then it began to grow. It consumed entire solar systems, breaking them down into energy and absorbing that energy into itself. She changed the image to show a map of space. A dark stain spread across it like ink in water. It destroyed our homeworld 70 years ago. We barely escaped with a fraction of our population. Since then, we have been running, moving from system to system, always staying ahead of the void. But it is getting faster, the Queen continued. It learns and adapts, and now our scouts have detected it moving into this region of space. It will reach your Earth in perhaps 20 of your years, maybe less. It will reach our current location in 10. Jake felt cold spreading through his body. 20 years? That's not much time. No, the Queen agreed. It is not. We have tried everything to fight it. Our weapons do nothing. Our best scientists cannot find a weakness. We have lost millions of our people trying to slow it down. Nothing works. And you think I'm somehow going to help with this? Jake asked. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a weapons expert. What could I possibly do? I do not know yet, the Queen said honestly. But my father believed you were important. And the timing of our meeting cannot be coincidence. You appeared here in our sacred space, just as we are preparing for our final stand against the void. She stood up and walked to one of the massive windows that showed the stars. I have been Queen for 47 years, Captain Morrison. I have led my people through countless dangers. I have made decisions that cost lives. I have carried the weight of an entire civilization on my shoulders. And I am tired, so very tired. Jake could hear the exhaustion in her voice, hidden under layers of strength and authority. When I saw your scar yesterday, she continued, I felt hope for the first time in decades. Hope that maybe my father was right. Hope that maybe we are not doomed to extinction. Hope that maybe there is another way forward that we have not seen yet. She turned back to face him. I need you to understand something. I am not keeping you here because I am cruel or because I enjoy having power over you. I am keeping you here because my entire species might depend on you. Can you understand that? Can you see why I cannot let you go? Jake thought about Earth, 20 years from being consumed by something that could not be stopped. He thought about his crew, his friends, everyone he had ever known. He thought about the little Kylthari girl who had waved at him in the hallway. Yes, he said quietly. I understand. I don't like it, but I understand. The Queen nodded. Thank you. That is all I can ask for right now. So what happens now? Jake asked. What do you need me to do? For now, I need you to learn, the Queen said. Learn about my people. Learn about our history, our culture, our technology. Learn about the void. Somewhere in all of this knowledge, perhaps we will find the answer my father saw in you. Over the following days, Jake threw himself into learning everything he could. Kira became his teacher and guide. She showed him the history of the Kylthari people, their rise from primitive warriors to a civilization that spanned dozens of star systems. She showed him the beauty of their art, their music, their poetry. She also showed him the horror of the void. Jake watched videos of 3 weeks passed on the Kylthari mothership. Jake had settled into a routine of sorts. His days were filled with lessons from Kira, meals with various members of the crew who were curious about humans, and long sessions with the Queen discussing strategy and philosophy. He was no longer just a prisoner or a guest. He was becoming something else, something in between, but not everyone was happy about it. Jake first noticed the tensions during a meal in one of the common areas. He had been eating with a group of younger Kylthari warriors who were fascinated by stories of Earth. They asked him hundreds of questions about human culture, human technology, human history. Jake was explaining the concept of pizza when he noticed the room had gone quiet. General Tharok had entered with several of his officers. The general was even more imposing up close. His armor bore the marks of countless battles, and his violet eyes held no warmth at all. He stopped at Jake's table and looked down at him. "So this is the prophesied one," Tharok said. His voice was deep and filled with contempt. "He looks weak. He smells strange. I see nothing special about him at all." The young warriors at Jake's table immediately stood up and placed their hands over their hearts in salute. Jake stood up too, though he had no idea what the proper protocol was. "General," Jake said carefully, "I'm Captain Jake Morrison. I don't think we've been formally introduced." "I do not introduce myself to humans," Tharok said. "You are an insult to everything the Kael'thari stand for. You are a symbol of our weakness, our desperation. The Queen may believe in this prophecy nonsense, but I do not." "That's your right," Jake said, keeping his voice calm even though his heart was pounding. "But the Queen has made her decision. I'm here whether you like it or not." Tharok leaned in closer. "Enjoy your time here, human. It will not last forever. Prophecies can be wrong, and accidents happen even on safe ships." One of the young warriors stepped forward. "General, the human is under the Queen's protection. You cannot threaten him." "I am not threatening him," Tharok said with a cold smile. "I am simply observing that life is uncertain. Now get out of my way." The general and his officers left. Jake sat back down, realizing his hands were shaking slightly. The young warriors looked at each other nervously. "You should be careful, Captain Morrison," one of them said. "The general has many followers. Not everyone believes in the prophecy." That evening, Jake told Kira what had happened. She listened with a deepening frown. "I will inform the Queen," Kira said. "Tharok should not have approached you like that." "He didn't actually do anything," Jake pointed out. "He just made it clear he doesn't like me. I can handle that." "It is more serious than you understand," Kira said. "Tharok is powerful. He commands a third of our military forces. If he decided to move against the Queen, it could start a civil war. We cannot afford that, not with the Void approaching." The next day, Jake was summoned to the throne room. When he arrived, he found not just the Queen, but a full council meeting in progress. Dozens of Kael'thari leaders stood in a circle, arguing in their language. The Queen sat on her throne, listening to them all with a patient but tired expression. When Jake entered, the room fell silent. All eyes turned to him. "Captain Morrison," the Queen said, "thank you for coming. We are discussing you, so it seemed only fair that you be present." "What's going on?" Jake asked. "There is a disagreement about your presence here," the Queen said.
"General Tharok has formally requested that you be sent away."
"He argues that keeping you endangers the fleet by creating division among our people." Jake looked at Tharok, who stood on the opposite side of the circle. The general's face showed no emotion. "And what do you think?" Jake asked the Queen. "I think my father's prophecy is real," the Queen said firmly. "I think you are here for a reason. But I also recognize that your presence is causing problems. We are a people used to unity. Having such strong disagreement over a single individual is unusual for us." An older Kael'thari woman stepped forward. "Your Majesty, if I may speak. I am Scholar Nira, keeper of the old texts. I have spent weeks researching the prophecy, studying every reference to the Tal Shara ritual, examining your father's final message. And I have found something troubling." "Go on," the Queen said. "The prophecy speaks of the Marked One bringing unity," Scholar Nira said, "but it also warns of trials. It says that before the bridge can be built, it must be tested. It says that doubt and fear will challenge the bond. Some interpret this to mean that the Marked One must prove himself worthy." "Prove himself how?" Jake asked. "That is not specified," the scholar admitted. "The old texts are deliberately vague. They speak of sacrifice, of choice, of standing at the edge of darkness, but they do not give clear answers." Tharok spoke up. "This is exactly my point. We are basing our entire strategy on vague prophecies and old stories. Meanwhile, the Void grows closer every day. We should be preparing for battle, not babysitting a human." "The prophecy suggests the human is part of our preparation," the Queen countered. "Then let him prove it," Tharok said. "Let him show us this great destiny he supposedly has. Let him do something useful instead of just learning our history and eating our food." Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but he forced it down. "What would you have me do, General? I'm not a warrior. I'm not a scientist. I'm trying to figure out why I'm here just as much as you are." "Then perhaps you do not belong here at all," Tharok said. The Queen stood up from her throne. The entire room fell silent. "Enough. I have made my decision and I will not debate it further. Captain Morrison stays. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me personally. This council is dismissed. The Kelthari leaders began to file out. Tharok left without looking at Jake, but several of his officers gave Jake dark looks as they passed. After the room had cleared, the Queen approached Jake. I apologize for that. Our people are stressed. The Void's approach has everyone on edge. It's okay, Jake said. I understand their concerns. I'd probably feel the same way if I were them. You are more understanding than most would be, the Queen said. Come, walk with me. I want to show you something. They left the throne room and walked through the ship's corridors. Kira followed at a respectful distance. Eventually, they reached a section of the ship Jake had not seen before. The walls here were covered in images, thousands of them, all showing Kelthari faces. This is the Wall of Remembrance, the Queen said softly. Every person we have lost to the Void has their image here. It is our way of making sure they are never forgotten. Jake looked at the faces, young and old, warriors and civilians, families and individuals. So many lives lost. My father's image is at the center, the Queen said, leading Jake to a large portrait. It showed a Kelthari male who looked similar to the Queen, but older with kind eyes. I was 23 when he disappeared. I thought I was ready to be queen. I was wrong. How did you manage? Jake asked. I made mistakes, the Queen admitted. So many mistakes. I was too aggressive, then too cautious. I tried to be like my father instead of being myself. It took years before I found my own way to lead. She turned to look at Jake. I tell you this because I want you to understand something. I do not expect you to be perfect. I do not expect you to immediately understand your role in the prophecy. I only ask that you keep trying. Keep learning. Keep being open to possibilities. I can do that, Jake said. Good, because things are about to become more complicated. The Queen's expression darkened. Our scouts have detected the Void. It has entered this sector of space. It is moving faster than we predicted. We have perhaps 6 of your months before it reaches us. Jake felt his blood run cold. 6 months? But you said we had 10 years. I was wrong, the Queen said. Or the Void has accelerated. Either way, we are running out of time. I am sending messages to your Earth. We need to make formal contact with your leaders. We need to form an alliance. Together we might have a chance. Separately, we are both doomed. My people are going to be terrified, Jake said. They just found out aliens exist. Now you're going to tell them there's something out there that eats planets? Yes, the Queen said simply. Because it is the truth. And sometimes the truth is terrifying. But it is better than false comfort. Over the next few days, preparations began in earnest. The Kelthari fleet started moving toward human space. The Queen recorded a message for Earth's leaders, explaining who she was and what was coming. She asked for a meeting, for talks, for cooperation. Jake helped where he could. He advised on human culture, on how to approach Earth's governments, on what would make humans trust the Kelthari. But he also felt increasingly worried. He knew how paranoid human governments could be. He knew there were people on Earth who would see the Kelthari as a threat, not as potential allies. One evening, as Jake was reviewing some diplomatic documents in his quarters, the lights suddenly went out. The ship's ever-present hum changed pitch, becoming deeper and more ominous. Warning, a voice said in Kelthari, then repeated in English. Hull breach in Section 7. Emergency protocols activated. Jake ran to his door, but it would not open. The emergency systems had locked everything down automatically. He could hear alarms wailing throughout the ship. Then his door opened and Kira rushed in, her armor fully activated. We need to move now. The Kelthari fleet moved through space toward Earth. It would take 2 months to reach human territory, and every day the tension on the ships grew worse. The failed sabotage had been just the beginning. Arguments broke out between warriors loyal to the Queen and those who sided with Tharok's views. Families were divided. Friends became enemies. Jake felt responsible for all of it. He spent most of his time in his quarters trying to stay out of the way. Kira still visited him daily for lessons, but even she seemed troubled. The easy friendship they had developed was strained by the weight of everything happening around them. You cannot hide in here forever, Kira said one afternoon. She had brought him a meal, but Jake had barely touched it. The Queen is planning a ceremony tomorrow. She wants you to attend. What kind of ceremony? Jake asked. The ritual of unity, Kira explained. It is performed before major events. It is meant to remind us all that we are one people, no matter our disagreements. The Queen hopes it will help heal some of the divisions. And she wants me there? Jake asked. Won't that just make things worse? She believes your presence is important, Kira said. She wants to show that she still has faith in the prophecy, still has faith in you. Jake looked out his window at the stars. I wish I had that kind of faith in myself. Kira sat down across from him. Can I tell you something? About why I believe? Sure, Jake said. My mother was one of the last people to escape our homeworld before the void consumed it, Kira said. She was pregnant with me at the time. She watched from her evacuation ship as the planet where she had lived her entire life was torn apart and absorbed. She said it was like watching a monster eat the universe itself. Kira's voice was steady, but Jake could hear the pain underneath. She gave birth to me on a refugee ship. I grew up never knowing a real home, always running, always afraid. I was raised on stories of what we had lost, of the great civilization we once were. When I joined the military, I did it because I wanted to fight back. Kira continued. I wanted to hurt the thing that had taken everything from us. But the more I fought, the more I realized we could not win. Not alone. We needed help, but we were too proud to ask for it. Too convinced that we were superior to everyone else. She looked directly at Jake. Then the Queen found you. And for the first time I saw a different path. A path where we did not have to be alone. A path where maybe, just maybe, we could survive. So yes, I believe in you. Not because of the prophecy, but because you represent something my people desperately need. Hope that we can change. Hope that we can adapt. Hope that we can learn to trust others. Jake did not know what to say. Finally, he just nodded. Okay, I'll go to the ceremony tomorrow. The ritual of unity was held in the largest chamber on the ship. Thousands of Kael'thari gathered there, filling the massive space. Jake stood near the front with Kira, feeling completely out of place in his human uniform among all the crystalline armor. The Queen entered last, wearing robes that seemed to be made of pure light. She walked to the center of the chamber where a raised platform waited. The crowd fell silent. My people, the Queen said, and her voice somehow carried to every corner of the massive room. We gather today as we have gathered for thousands of years. We gather to remember that we are one. We gather to remember that no matter our differences, we share the same blood, the same spirit, the same destiny. She raised her hands, and light began to glow from her palms. Other Kael'thari around the room did the same. Soon the entire chamber was filled with soft blue light, flowing from person to person like waves. We have faced many trials, the Queen continued. We have lost our home. We have lost loved ones. We have been tested again and again. And yet we survive. We survive because we stand together. The light grew brighter. Jake felt something in his chest responding to it. His scar began to tingle, then to burn, then to glow. He looked down in shock and saw blue light shining through his uniform, the exact pattern of his scar visible. Everyone in the room noticed. Thousands of violet eyes turned to look at him. The glowing stopped flowing between the Kael'thari and began to flow toward Jake instead. He felt it entering him through his scar, warm and powerful and overwhelming. The mark responds, Scholar Nira said loudly from somewhere in the crowd. The Tal Shara bond is real. The prophecy is real, but not everyone was convinced. From the back of the chamber, someone shouted, It is a trick. The human is using technology to fool us. Others joined in. Send him away. He is dividing us. The prophecy is false. We do not need humans. The Queen raised her voice. Silence. You will show respect in this sacred ceremony. But the shouting continued. The chamber descended into chaos. Warriors moved to protect the Queen. Others surrounded Jake. Kira drew her weapon ready to defend him. Then everything happened at once. A figure in dark clothing leapt from the crowd, moving faster than Jake thought possible. The assassin had twin blades that gleamed in the blue light. He was aiming directly for the Queen's back. The warriors around her would never reach her in time. Jake did not think. He just moved. Years of military training took over. He ran forward, pushing past Kael'thari, who were twice his size. He reached the Queen just as the assassin's blade was descending. Jake threw himself in front of the Queen. The blade that was meant for her heart instead sliced across his chest, cutting through his uniform and into his flesh. The burning pain was immediate and terrible. It cut through the old scar, splitting it open. But Jake's momentum carried him into the assassin. They both went down in a tangle. Kira was there instantly, her weapon pressed to the assassin's head. Other warriors grabbed the attacker and dragged him away. Jake lay on the floor, blood spreading across his chest. The wound had opened his old scar completely. The pain was beyond anything he had ever felt. He could hear shouting, people running, the queen's voice commanding her healers to help him. Then gentle hands lifted him. The queen herself cradled his head. Her face was right above his, her violet eyes wide with shock and something else. Gratitude and recognition. "You saved my life," she whispered. "You barely know me and you saved my life." "Had to," Jake managed to say through the pain. "You're important. Your people need you." The healers arrived and began working on his wound. Jake felt their energy flowing into him, trying to close the bleeding. But something was wrong. The wound would not close. The old Tal Shara mark had been disrupted, and now it was fighting against the healing. "The mark is destabilizing," one of the healers said urgently. "The energy signature is unraveling. If we do not stop it, it will kill him." "Then stop it," the queen commanded. "We cannot," the healer said. "Only someone with a matching signature could stabilize it. Only someone bonded to him through the Tal Shara." The queen looked down at Jake. Then, without hesitation, she placed both her hands over his bleeding chest. "My father gave him this mark. I carry my father's blood. Let that be enough." Light exploded from the queen's hands so bright that everyone had to look away. Jake screamed as the energy tore through him. He could feel the queen's life force mixing with his own, just as her father's had all those years ago in the mines. But this was different. This was stronger. This was permanent. When the light faded, Jake lay gasping on the floor. His chest still hurt, but the bleeding had stopped. The wound was closing, glowing with blue light. When the glow faded, his scar was still there, but it had changed. Now it had new patterns woven through it, more complex, more beautiful. The queen collapsed beside him, exhausted from the energy she had poured into him. Kira and other guards rushed to help her up. "Take them both to the medical bay," Kira commanded, "and find out who sent that assassin." Hours later, Jake woke up in a medical room. His chest was bandaged, but he could feel that the wound had fully healed. The queen sat beside his bed, looking tired but alive. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Like I got stabbed," Jake said. "How are you?" "Better now," the queen said. "Thanks to you. If you had not moved when you did, I would be dead." "I couldn't let that happen," Jake said simply. "Why?" the queen asked. "You owe me nothing. I have kept you prisoner. I have taken you from your home, from your crew. Yet you risked your life for me." Why? Jake thought about it. "Because you're trying to save your people. Because you carry so much weight on your shoulders. Because you deserve someone watching your back." The queen reached out and took his hand. It was the first time she had ever touched him like this, as an equal rather than as a prisoner or a prophesied figure. Her hand was warm. "The assassin was one of Tharok's personal guards," she said. "Under interrogation, he admitted that the general ordered my death. Tharok believed that with me gone, the council would choose him as the new leader. He believed he could turn the fleet away from Earth and focus only on fighting the void with our own strength." "Where is Tharok now?" Jake asked. "In custody," the queen said. "But his followers are many. We are on the edge of civil war. My people are divided more than ever before." "Because of me," Jake said quietly. "No," the queen said firmly. "Because of fear. Because we have been running for so long that we have forgotten how to do anything else. Because change is terrifying and you represent change." She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "But you—" The shuttle ride back to Earth took 3 days. Jake sat in the passenger seat while Kira piloted the small craft. It was strange being in such a confined space after weeks on the massive mothership. It was even stranger knowing that with every hour he was getting closer to home. "Are you nervous?" Kira asked during the second day. "Terrified," Jake admitted. "I've been gone for almost 2 months. My crew made it back weeks ago. They've had time to brief Earth's leaders to tell their side of the story. And now I'm showing up with an alien warrior as my +1. No offense." "None taken," Kira said with what might have been a smile. "I am nervous too. I have never met another species before. My entire life has been spent either among my own people or running from the void. Your Earth is completely unknown to me." "What did the Queen tell you about this mission?" Jake asked. "To observe, to learn, and to help you convince your leaders that an alliance is necessary," Kira said. "She also told me to protect you if needed. She believes you are still in danger even on your own world." "From what?" "From people who fear change," Kira said simply. "The same kind of people who follow General Tharok. Fear makes people do terrible things. They were quiet for a while. Then Jake asked, "What will happen to Tharok?" "The council has voted for exile," Kira said. "He will be given a small ship with supplies and sent away from the fleet." The Queen tried to argue for a lesser punishment, but too many people wanted him gone. The assassination attempt was too much. "Will he survive out there alone?" "Physically, yes," Kira said. "Emotionally, I do not know. For a Kael'thari, being completely isolated is worse than death. We are meant to be connected to others. That is why the Tal Shara exists, to create bonds between souls. To be cut off from all other souls is to be already dead." Jake thought about the bond he now carried. 2 connections, 2 souls linked to his own. First the Queen's father, then the Queen herself. He could feel them both faintly, like distant music playing at the edge of his awareness. On the 3rd day, Earth appeared in the view screen. The blue and white sphere looked so small after the vast distances Jake had traveled, but it was home. His throat tightened with emotion. "It is beautiful," Kira said softly. "I have seen images, but seeing it in person is different. So much water, so much life. My people's homeworld was red and rocky, more,